Zarino is an Italian music theorist and composer of the Renaissance. He has composed 3 treatises which are Le Istituzioni Armoniche, Dimostrazioni Armoniche, and Supplementi Musicali. The first treatise, which is Le Istituzioni Armoniche, is written in 1558, one of the most influential music theory treatises. It contains the most comprehensive exposition of contrapuntal principles produced up to that time. Zarino also codified the rules of the first practice. In the first practice, Zarino considered that the triad rather than the interval as the basic entity of musical composition. The common triad is the most important of all the consonant combination. In Zarino's principle of harmony, Zarino created the consonant with the combination of third and sixth, and it also formed a major triad and a minor triad that's used for today. Zarino also found the frequency ratio of third and sixth in a theoretical way. However, originally in that period is using the modes, but incidentally, he has an idea to form a concept of tonality which is major and minor that we are using until today. Zarino also considered that the sound of a major is happy and the sound of a minor is sad.
In music, interval is the difference in pitch between two sounds. There are two types of intervals. One is the dissonant intervals, and the other is the consonant intervals. Dissonant intervals causes dissonance and it sounds clashing to the ears, while consonant intervals sounds harmonious. Dissonant intervals includes all augmented and diminished intervals and the intervals of second and sevenths. Consonant intervals, on the other hand, includes intervals of perfect octave, perfect unison, perfect fifth, perfect fourth, major third, major sixth, and minor sixth. This is the brief application of dissonance in the first practice. Consonants can be applied freely throughout the music, but dissonance can only be applied according to rules. The function of dissonance is to contrast the consonants that come after, making the consonants much more satisfying to the ears. Dissonance can only be placed in off beats and weak beats. In the strong beats, which are the first and third beats, only consonant intervals are allowed. Dissonance can only be placed between consonants in stepwise relation. The modern-day equivalent for this is the passing tone and the auxiliary tone. The only exception to the use of dissonance of the strong beat is the use of suspension. Take a look at the picture. The suspension is started by a consonant preparation note on the weak beat and form a suspended dissonance on the strong beat. Then, this dissonance is resolved to a consonant by a downward step motion. Such dissonance is not obvious and do not offend the ears.
In Monteverdi's music, Monteverdi hoped to sum up the rules of Plato that he wrote in his Republic 398d, which used the concept of harmony and the rhythm following the word or thought in a song. Besides, Monteverdi preferred more flexibility in the use of counterpoint in his songs than prima pratica, to have an increasing hierarchy of voices and to emphasize soprano and bass. Hence, it has a freer treatment in dissonance and chromaticism. In the Cruda Amarili in Monteverdi's fifth book of Madrigals, Monteverdi wanted to highlight the word cruda and ai lasso. Hence, he used suspensions that serve as a rhetorical device. However, the dissonance he used resulted in some voice leading problems. He did not resolve the suspensions in the upper voice before moving the bass notes, and caused an unusual harmonic interval between voices. In Echo Silver in Book 5 of Madrigal, Monteverdi moved the bass from E flat to D, with the canto still staying in a suspension and resolving it after the bass move. When the basso continues to strike the pitch D, the canto is still singing C, and created a dissonance with -7 intervals. Meanwhile, he also put passing notes on strong beats in the tenor part at the third beat of major 38. Likewise, it created a -7 interval with quinto. Besides, the dissonance were not resolved or prepared stepwise. In the Massa Cona Pieta from the same book of Madrigal, Monteverdi did not prepare the suspension in quinto. In De Bella Cara, we found a place that Monteverdi did not resolve the suspension in basso stepwisely. The voice leading problems in his Madrigal are easily to be found here and there.
The story of Cruda Amarili was set in ancient Greece. It was about the love between a shepherd named Myrtilo, which is also the persona of the text, and a descendant of God named Amarili. However, they were unable to get together due to the rules of the time between the immortals and the mortals. The text Amarili, ai lasso, amaramente, la spido, t'offendo, and morro are sung with dissonance. These dissonances were mostly created against the rules of the first practice, creating dissonances that are obvious to the ears in order to express the emotion of these words. This is the translation of the text. The Italian text is on the left and the English translation is on the right. These are some examples of dissonance application in Cruda Amarilli. Take a look at the text Amar in the second bar. In the notes indicated in blue, the canto and the bass created an unresolved suspension of a minor seventh interval. Then in the third crotchet beat, interval of minor second between the canto and the bass, which is a delayed resolution of the previous suspension, and minor seventh between the alto and the bass was created. So there were two consecutive dissonances. This is actually against the rule of the first practice. Next, the text Ai Lasso in bar 12 and 13. The note indicated in blue is in the second beat of the 12th bar. There is an interval of augmented octave between the quinto and the bass, which is an F sharp and an F. In bar 13, there is an unexpected A and F in the soprano, which creates dissonance with the G from the bass. This is against the rules of the first practice because the dissonance did not come in the form of passing tone or suspension. In this example, the passage in the blue rectangle is a series of suspensions for the text amaramente among the quinto, tenor, and the bass. Also, in bar 19, the notes indicated in red is a major second interval between the quinto and the tenor for the text lasso. Lastly, in bars 48 and 49, the text of Fendo and Moreau is sung in dissonance. The fourth beat of bar 48, which is the notes in the blue rectangle, creates a strong dissonance with the simultaneous notes of E, F, G, A, and C. And also, in bar 49, which is the notes indicated in red, creates an interval of major second between the quinto and the tenor.
In 1600, these madrigals were critiqued by Artusi in his book L'Artusi ovvero delle imperfezioni della moderna musica, which means Artusi or the imperfections of modern music. He was getting annoyed by modern composers who were lack of respect towards all rules of counterpoint. He used a dialogue scene between Vario and Luca, where Luca was pictured as an open-minded man, and Vario probably as Artusi himself. In the first part of the book, he stated some problems of tuning system, where instruments should be tuned to equal temperament by a single ear. In the second part, he criticized an unpublished madrigals with anonymous composer, which eventually known as Monteverdi. Luca set the scene that he went and listened to a madrigal performance that introduced new styles and new rules, which was unpleasing to the ear. He then showed Vario the scores of the madrigals but defended Monteverdi. Vario was not pleased by these new compositions, but he checked them out anyway. In the incomplete and short excerpts, Vario found two errors, which was the unprepared 9 and 7 in G chord, which later resolved to C chord. Luca tried to convince Vario by telling him that this was a thing called musica accentata or accented singing, but he failed. Vario also pointed out other errors such as the use of diminished intervals and the use of different modes, as he tended to start madrigal in one mode and ended it in a different mode. Such errors were also pointed out in Artusi's second book, Seconda parte dell'Artusi ovvero delle imperfezioni della moderna musica. One of the important highlights was when L'Ottuso Accademico mentioned that a piece should sound good in performance and look good on paper. Later on, these critics were responded by Monteverdi and his brother.
In 1600, Claudio Monteverdi madrigal, Cruda Amarilli, was criticized by Giovanni Artusi. Artusi said that the Monteverdi broke the rules of counterpoint. In 1605, Monteverdi responded to Artusi's criticism by placing the madrigal first in his fifth book of madrigals and included a brief preface, suggesting that there is a new style called second practice, which is beyond the traditional rules on that time. In 1607, Monteverdi's brother Giulio Cesare Monteverdi elaborated more in the preface to Claudio Schizzi Musicali, saying that in second practice the music served the meaning of words rather than following the rules in first practice that codified by Zalino. It shows us that in first practice the music has to follow its own rules and dominate the text, while in the second practice it's more freely in the rules, the text and music are equal to evolve the expression in the word. The second practice did not displace the first practice, but they was used where appropriate.